The SEC hasn't kicked us off yet.
Can they do that? You never know.
You never know.
You never know. They could be doing all sorts of stuff.
But, you got the music? You want to cue up the music?
My iPhone updated last night, and now it is the most annoying thing I've ever used.
It took me 3 or 4 days to figure out how to send emojis again.
Oh my god. It made me make an avatar. I don't need an avatar. What the fuck? Sorry.
I felt old. I was like, I'm complaining about nothing.
What is this thing doing? Okay. We're on it.
Well.
Are you recording? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh, yeah. I'm paying attention.
We have you complaining about avatars all down pat.
No, don't put that on there. I'll sound old. Someone's got to get it together.
Okay, so here we go. Hi, and welcome everybody to Academics of PA. I have with me, of course, not just one, but both of my co-hosts, Josie Schafer and Will Hatcher. And I am, of course, Bruce McDonald. So welcome to our, host hang or whatever else you want to call it.
It is our host hang. That is the official name.
The host hangout pod. And I promise not to talk about cats today.
And we're not.
I actually think we lost some listeners.
I know. We got fans that want to hear about the tales of my cats.
They love those cats.
That's not going to happen today, though. Sorry.
What a shame.
So this is the... we've been doing this for about a year now, right, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised we kind of lasted this long.
So over the past year, how many people did we interview?
Oh, God.
Ooh, good question.
We've had 18 episodes.
Wow.
But we have 5 more that are waiting to be edited. So we've recorded 24. Yeah.
Woo.
And if you're doing the math in there, that actually doesn't add up because the one would be extra ones, the 3 of us for that first one. So
yeah,
it really does work. So we interviewed 22-ish people.
And we're getting some feedback too, right? Like the followers on Twitter have grown, and some people are listening.
We actually have a couple hundred listeners to every episode, which kind of neat, kind of cool. Especially when you consider that, as I said before, I know the average academic paper has a grand total of 0 readers once it's actually published.
It's a good day.
It's a good day.
It's a good day for us.
Yeah. Yeah, we should get sponsors then if we got like a couple hundred, We need to...
I think that was a discussion, and I think I was supposed to be in charge of that, and I have not done in my job.
We need to get some stickers to go up on the and then have us do little commercials.
So I don't know how much y'all actually listen to other podcasts or not, but Quip, that stupid electronic toothbrush.
Yeah.
I
don't know if we're going to get them as a sponsor with you saying that.
But here's the thing. If we have about an average of 500 listeners in the first 2 weeks that an episode comes out, they'll actually do ads for us.
Ooh.
Oh.
And it would be enough to actually pay for someone to professionally edit. Of course.
Nice.
500 people in the first 2 weeks is quite a lot considering the size of our field, which is probably not going to happen, but
we could dream.
Talk about my Quip toothbrush.
Yeah, we could dream. Now, I don't have a Quip toothbrush.
I don't have a Quip toothbrush. Yeah, do we get them?
I don't actually have one either, but I get to hear about them all the time on the other podcasts I listen to.
I don't think we're going to be Quip advertisers, with this discussion.
But that's okay.
This particular discussion, definitely not.
So we are actually here talking for a reason today, I guess, instead of discussing ads and toothbrushes as a matter of reflection back on last year and kind of, talking how it went, what we liked, something along that kind of line.
I have a question.
Go for it.
What was everyone's favorite episode to record?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
You can do top 2. How's that?
That
top 3. You go first, Bruce.
I have my favorite moment.
Okay.
I know what my favorite moment is. It was when Will and I were talking with Don Kettle and he talks about writing one of the chapters of his book, Stoned.
Yeah, that is a fun moment.
Stone is a very strong word.
Right. He came back and he added context to it.
Yeah.
But when he said it, I was like, shit, what do I do now?
He's in the hospital. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
If we're doing moments, when we recorded the live one at MPAC, there was very few people in the audience, so someone had an app with clapping, so it sounded like a lot of people were there, and I found that amusing.
Nice. That ruined our secrets, though.
If anybody thought there were people in the audience, no, there were, 5 grad students, and we thank them.
Well, the downside of that, they counter-scheduled, so there were 2 or 3 different things for PhD students at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. And when you're at a small conference, that kind of spreads everybody out fairly thin.
Who did that schedule? I think I did it.
I certainly didn't do it.
Well, I really liked the interview with Don Kettle with the hospital, and for one, it was humorous, but also showed that even people who write so much like Don Kettle have life that goes on, and had to write a chapter while he was in the hospital. I like the interview with Camille Stivers. That was one of my top ones too. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick. I didn't know we've done so many. 24. That's a lot.
18, 24. We're trying. We'll eventually have 24.
We've recorded 24, or this will be our 24th.
The Stivers interview, I regularly have mic trouble, and I couldn't hear her. I had a speaker in one corner of my office, and me crouched in the other corner on a mic. It was tough, but listening to it, she was very good.
My second favorite moment of any of the episodes is listening to her talk about when she says, she was growing up to be a good little racist.
Well, so we have had some interesting growing up stories.
Oh yeah, I mean it's absolutely fascinating when you think about there's these people that are big names that are out there. By the way, Cam is not a racist by any means.
We're gonna get in trouble for this episode.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some editing that part, Bruce.
Jim Sparrow's twin brother, that was cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have these people who are huge names who are out there who have been around, and their experience informs who they are and what they do in terms of research and how they work and everything else. And for the most part, we really don't know too much about them. So it's, at least for me, it's kind of been fascinating to kind of learn that background because it puts everything else into context for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and I really enjoy learning about the careers they had before they went into academia. Because I've pretty much been just doing this my whole life, so it's good to live a different life through them. But the interview with Rosemary O'Leary, with the impressive career she had before, a very impressive career in academia, I think that was very interesting and pretty common theme throughout all the recordings.
Yeah. We've been able to get really great people. Do we think that the future will be harder? Do we still have a great list of people to bring in?
I mean, we have a fairly cool list of people we've been talking to and working the schedule.
Oh, you've had some good scheduling stories, Bruce. Tell some scheduling stories.
Wait, what scheduling stories do I have?
When you went to Good Cell's house, or maybe you don't want to tell me.
I don't know if we can air that one.
So, Charles Goodsell, it's one of the episodes that's pending, that's recorded, that just needs editing to come out here in 2020. Lives right outside of Blacksburg, Virginia, and he had said he'd be happy to do it, but he'd only do it in person. So, of course, I then hopped in my car, drove 3.5 hours to his house, and I get there, and he was not there.
But where was he? Because that's my favorite part.
He was at the DMV.
That's a very public administration.
Right? Man. His book is all about bureaucracy. Yeah. I love it.
Well, the best part, he was trying to get a ID that was the real ID, because you can't use your old driver's license to get on an airplane starting in October. And so he's attempting to get this real ID that he can, or the real ID stamp on his driver's license so he can then use his driver's license to travel. And he was having a hard time providing the documents to them to prove who he was, which then even makes the entire story even better.
Mm-hmm. It's a great story.
It was a slightly frustrating one because, of course, I didn't find that out till afterwards. So I sat there knocking on his door for a little bit, waited in my car for a little bit, finally drove back to Raleigh. And then the next day he emailed me, "Oh, sorry."
But what commitment to the podcast.
I know, that's commitment.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
You're like, I hate this commitment.
I only drove 2 hours to go to the beach.
It's commitment enough that when we recorded it, he and I did it over the phone. So I didn't have to make that drive twice.
Any good editing stories? If people don't know, Bruce does all our editing.
Oh, man.
There's a lot of junk in there.
I think that's the one thing I didn't think about before we started all this is how much time that would end up taking.
I can imagine. Yeah. I can't imagine, actually.
The first 3 or 4 episodes were so painful, largely because you're listening to yourself back again.
Yeah. I wouldn't like that.
And there are things that I evidently used to say when I would talk quite a bit that I have now learned not to say, just because of hearing myself say it over and over and over again. On the other hand, I can also tell when Josie's about to say something based off the shape of her voice curve or whatever it looks like. And I know when Will says, based off of the shape of his curve without actually having the audio turned up.
That is impressive. I'm kind of sad for Willie.
I know. That's why we need to sell some toothbrushes to get a professional editor so you won't be tortured. But it sounds like you're learning some really good skills with anticipating us.
Oh, yeah. Well, my thing was, I would always say, "So you know." And I know exactly what my "so you know" looks like on the screen.
Well, so you know.
Like, "So you know your mother died yesterday, but that's okay. Let's keep going in conversation."
It's a transition that's not useful.
Yeah, exactly.
So what were some of the takeaways from all of the interviews that we did over last year?
The interview I did with Irene Rubin was really interesting, and her history, her career, I think, parallels some of the history of women in academia. And that was sort of fascinating. And there toward the end, we had this sort of conversation about what she thought academia was and how I had experienced academia. And it actually made me feel really hopeful that things were changing in a positive way. I think for families, for work-life balance, and for women. And that meant a lot to me.
That was a good one. That's one of the things that I had jotted down when I was thinking about. I do prep a little bit before these things. It's probably hard to tell. But, we had a lot of discussion about work-life balance. And to a certain degree, you kind of, from some of the interviews, you get you have a takeaway that to be at the level that some of the people we talked with perform at, that you really can't have work-life balance, which is interesting too. And when Bruce and I started talking about on Twitter our upcoming special issue for JPay on work-life balance, we had people tweeting about how there's no such thing as work-life balance. So that's interesting.
Graham Allison made me feel so stupid. It was so hard. I mean, it was so interesting, but he's read everything. Well, I've read a couple.
He pulls it all together. There were a couple points when we were talking with him that I muted my mic and I was texting Josie and Googling, just trying to keep up in the conversation, because he has this incredible mind that just went.
I'm on page 700, which is like 3/4 of the first volume of Edmund Morris's TR. And I cannot believe people read this thing. It's like there's these moments where I'm really interested, but it is just so long and pedantic, and the vocabulary is out of control. And he's like, why wouldn't you have read that in kindergarten? And I'm like, well, get right on it. No, but yes, he was so interesting and so smart. And yeah, his career has spanned for so long. I mean, he's seen it all. And he was dropping names of just like extremely interesting people. Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Kissinger,
know if we ever
right?
said. So initially that was supposed to be Will and I were recording with him, and we got bounced. So like the morning of we were supposed to do it, or the day before, we got an email saying they needed to reschedule.
Because
Secretary
Secretary
Mattis.
Mattis. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got bounced for Secretary Mattis. I was like, I want to tell everybody that.
Secretary Mattis got 200 followers on our pod.
Is he following it?
Is he about to get ad money from Quip? I don't think so. Shouldn't have bumped us.
I think Will laughs the most on the podcast for sure. It's good.
Yeah, I laugh a ton. Usually when I'm when I don't know what to do.
I was actually about to say that's one of the things I like about you, that you laugh a lot, because then it's fun.
It is fun, and it's. How did we pick the intro music, Bruce?
I really don't have good explanation for that. I kind of started off by wanting to have the intro music from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah, no.
And it turns out that cost a fortune to buy the rights to, and so I went to a website that had right-free music and kind of felt in a funky mood, and so we went with the funky song.
Yeah.
I do like the jam band sound.
And then we had the funky music after the really serious music. That's like the transition of the pod. We transitioned to funk.
With that accent, I thought you said F-U-C-K, and I was like, I don't think we can do that.
I thought he said that too.
Like, what are you doing? It is not F-U music.
It's not that thick.
Well, as we established, the FCC is not going to really care about us and kick us off, so...
Fair.
I don't know.
Let's try it. On the count of 3.
Don't take any chances, though.
Fuck.
Bruce.
I can edit myself.
Have we talked about... We should probably say something nice about everyone. Have we talked about everyone?
Oh, of all the guests that we've had? We have... Not quite yet.
Who are we missing?
Craig, Carolyn, Ethel, Mikesel. Ooh, we should talk about Mikesel. So considering...
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things that stand out for me from the past year was when we recorded with John Mikesel. In part, we captured part of a story, and then, of course, a few months later, he passed away, which I think...
Yeah, that was pretty amazing to be able to capture that before.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things one of the things I like about the idea of the podcast is having these stories and capturing them while we can. And I think that's one of those great examples of, we were able to do that. The weird thing of his episode was I had emailed him about being on, and I got this email back now, which, if you know any time you spent with him, that's kind of in line with what he does. He's very upfront, very succinct, and it was just not something he wanted to do. And then about a month later, I got an email from him going, I kind of want to do it. Can we record by phone? And I was at my parents' house. I don't even remember why. And I said, sure. I was like, when are you available? And he's like, well, I have time on Wednesday between treatments, and he could only do it that Wednesday. And so I walked out of my parents' living room, went, sat on the phone, and had this conversation with them for about an hour, literally sitting in my parents' den, just staring out the window.
Amazing.
See, I know you're amazing just by the shape of that little word.
I was just going to say a word I say all the time.
Anticipate what we say. That's getting a little creepy.
Or we're just like sad and use the same words over.
No, we all have our same filler words. That more editing somebody's episode needs, you start picking up on what their kind of filler words are and what they look like. I'll pick on Rosemary O'Leary for a second. At least I'm pretty sure it was her. Not that she had a lot of filler words, but I think she had neighbors who were moving while we were recording, because there was like a truck in the background that was doing like the backup beeping every now and then.
Yeah.
And about halfway through, I didn't even have to keep going through and like listening to everything to pull out that little sound, because I could just see the little bleeps and be like, oh, that's the truck.
Wow, Bruce. Wow.
Seriously, this may be a second career for you, Bruce, with the editing skills. You know? Yeah.
No.
A whole new side job there.
I'm going to say amazing over and over again because I want to see what it looks like. Amazing. 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 No, I'm making it too different. I can see it.
It has to be amazing.
Amazing. Oh, I do see it.
What do we plan to do over the next year? What are some of the people we want to interview, topics we want to focus on?
Will, do you feel like we've stuck to the original intent of the podcast?
I think we wanted to talk with senior scholars about their career, but also to a certain degree about their lives in general and about their backgrounds. I think each of the episodes does a little bit of that. But along the way, we found some interesting stuff out, too, that we didn't think we would. Like Jim Perry has a twin brother. I didn't know that.
There's a underlying theme that comes out in everybody's, and it usually almost pops up by accident. And that's the idea of, kind of where PA as a field has moved to, which I don't think was something that Will and I had really thought about beforehand.
Consistently, they have all said it was born from an applied field. It should be practical. It's our job. There's been a lot about like using the best methods to answer the questions. And you know what? I think the student episode when we had Hannah and Dante on, they probably understood that maybe more than we did when we started it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, it brings up the issue, and we haven't explicitly asked anybody about it, in part because I don't necessarily know for sure that I want to know what the answer is going to be. But there's this push within the field of data analytics and incorporating data analytics and everything that it brings to doing all of our research and everything that we teach. And I think a lot of our guests would probably push back against that, if not publicly, at least in their personal, private little communities, kind of saying that they might have some concern for that it kind of masks the applied side. It masks, what's really going on by presuming that we can solve these things just by sheer computer power.
Right. Like instead of asking big questions, we're using big data.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been fun. I mean, it's been fun to have that conversation and to have it so openly and to have it with so many senior scholars.
Thinking back at some point, maybe we probably should have asked about whether or not or how people view that push towards the data analytics side of things. Yeah.
But it back to Will's point, it has sort of come out very naturally.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know if we ever really wanted to ask very specifically about people's research, and we really don't go into any depth about people's research, but it's more how they feel about the enterprise of research, doing research, more than what is your research.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know what I meant.
But that's something that came out in every interview, that you use the methods that the question requires instead of what we've seen over the last few years, and that data analytics that Bruce was talking about, that is more about showing off with your ability to do the method than answer the question.
It is fun.
Yeah. It's fun to do some cool graphs.
God, I love a graph. Slap a confidence interval on there. Ooh, it looks so good.
I think we need to get you a new hobby, Josie.
I know. I agree.
I don't want to dwell too much on it, but it does make me kind of wonder, through all the conversations of what people are bringing up, the push towards the push of the field towards using large data, kind of neat, complex methodologies, the types of questions that we're asking, as that becomes more kind of complex or maybe slightly convoluted, that we are losing what public administration was as a field. I think throughout the year I've become a little bit more aware, or perhaps a little bit more fearful of the implications behind that.
Yeah, it makes me feel really positive, right? That these conversations are coming out so naturally, and we're talking about these things, and it if you read the journal, it may feel that the field is moving away from those roots. But then when we have these conversations, how could it, right? Because these are the senior scholars whose work we read and who are teaching PhD students who are going to be doing the research. And so I'm pretty hopeful.
That's a good note to end on.
Shut the fuck up. What is this bitch talking about?
Hopeful.
There's been several times, right? Like when we're talking to these senior scholars and I'm like, what an interesting point. And I'm like, who are you to be telling these people they had a good point? No shit. So I'm basically in charge now. Oh, God. And like, if I'm in charge, then I am not that hopeful.
Yeah, there's been several of the guests who have commented, usually after we're done recording, of how much they like the idea of the podcast and kind of what we're putting forward, and how much they appreciate that we do it. I'm like, this was a harebrained idea that we came up with.
We saw Mike at a meeting.
Literally, that's the origin story. Is Will and I were setting a meeting, and we're like, "Ooh, a mic! What can we do with the mic?"
And I purchased a mic, and I still don't use it for this.
I have so many mic problems. I don't think I've had one episode where I did not have a mic problem. I'm echoing right now, actually. Yeah. Thank you both for including me in this very fun podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Bruce, for doing all the editing and fun stuff.
No. Yeah, really, Bruce.
Yeah, what else would I do with my time?
Probably a lot of other more important things.
Well, Bruce doesn't sleep, so get some rest if you were up till 6.
Yeah, I'm going to go sleep on my couch in just about 5 minutes, so.
Awesome.
And I'm going to leave that in the episode just because. Work-life balance, I suck at it.
You guys have a good day. I'll talk to y'all later on. Bye.
All right, you too.
Bye.